Alright guys, yeah, we'll finish up Esperanza Rising right now. This will be Las Uvas, the Grapes, part 2. I'm going to have to sing because there's like a song here, so if you make fun of my singing, I have friends from Chechnya and Ingushetia, which is in Kafkas, if that means anything to you. And it should. Because it's very, very serious what I just said. So, let's get this thing set, nice and straight. Let's read Las Uvas. Let's go. So we left off on page 247 at the little break, and we'll finish up. We could only guess how it ends. After a few days before her birthday, Esperanza begged Miguel to drive her to the foothills before sunrise. There was something she wanted to do. She woke in the dark and tiptoed from the cabin. They followed the dirt road that headed east and parked when they could go no farther. In the gray light, they could see a small footpath to a plateau. When they got to the top, Esperanza looked out over the valley. The cool, almost morning air filled her senses. Below, she could see the white roofs of the cabins in straight rows. The fields beginning to take form, and over the eastern mountains, a hopeful brightening. She bent over and touched the grass. It was cool but dry. She lay down on her stomach and patted the ground next to her. Miguel, did you know that if you lie on the ground and stay very still, you can feel the earth's heart beating? He looked at her skeptically. She patted the ground again. Then he lay down as she was, facing her. Will this happen soon, Esperanza? Aguántate tantito a la fruta caerá en tu mano. Wait a little while and the fruit will fall into your hand. He smiled and nodded, and they were still. This is very awkward. She watched Miguel watching her, and then she felt it, beginning softly, a gentle thumping, repeating itself, then stronger. She heard it too. Shoom, 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 the earth's heartbeat, just like she had felt it that day with Papa. Miguel smiled, and she knew that he felt it too. The sun peeked over the rim of a distant ridge, bursting the dawn onto the waiting fields. She felt its warmth washing over her and turned on her back and faced the sky, staring into the clouds now tinged with pink and orange. So this would be like the romantic scene, just with what they see. As the sun rose, Esperanza began to feel as if she rose with it. No, not in that sense. No, stop it. Floating again, like that day on the mountain, when she first arrived in the valley. She closed her eyes, and this time she did not careen out of control. Instead, she glided above the earth, unafraid. She let herself be lifted into the sky, and she knew that she would not slip away. She knew that she would never lose Papa, or El Rancho de las Rosas, or Abuelita, or Mama, no matter what happened. It was as Carmen, the egg woman, had said on the train. She had her family, a garden full of roses, her faith, and the memories of those who had gone before her. But now she had even more than that, and it carried her up, as on the wings of the phoenix. She soared with the anticipation of dreams she never knew she could have, of learning English, of supporting her family, of someday buying a tiny house. Miguel had been right about never giving up. And she had been right, too, about rising above those who held them down. She hovered high above the valley, its basin surrounded by the mountains. She swooped over Papa's rose blooms, buoyed by the rose hips that remembered all the beauty they had seen. She waved at Isabel and Abuelita, walking barefoot in the vineyards, wearing grapevine wreaths in their hair. She saw Mama sitting on a blanket, a cacophony of colors that covered an acre in zigzag rows. She saw Marta and her mother walking in an almond grove, holding hands. Then she flew over a river, a thrusting torrent that cut through the mountains. And there, in the middle of the wilderness, was a girl in a blue silk dress, and a boy with his hair slicked down, eating mangoes on a stick, carved to look like exotic flowers, sitting on a grassy bank, on the same side of the river. Esperanza reached for Miguel's hand and found it. And even though her mind was soaring to infinite possibilities, his touch held her heart to the earth. Wow, this is amazing. So this is all very symbolic and metaphoric, and it's like almost like a heavenly revelation, but yet it's true. So we have Esperanza with her heavenly revelation, but we have Miguel taking her back to the earth. So we almost have pairs of opposites but coming together. And finally, like, the beautiful thing is that they were able to cross the river, that the river has been crossed. Meaning they'll be together. This is good news. Genesis says, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. In Ephesians, Paul says, this mystery is profound, but I'm talking about Christ in the church. Ephesians 5. Okay, so here I'm going to sing. Make fun of me. Don't call me when the Ingushetians come. And you guys have never even heard of the Ingushetia. Anyway, find it on Google. Estas son las mañanitas que cantaba el rey David. A las muchachas bonitas se las cantamos aquí. Despierta, mi bien, despierta, mira que ya amaneció. Los pajaritos cantan, la luna ya se metió. These are the songs of David, King David used to sing. To all the pretty girls we sing them here to you. Awake, beloved, wake, see it is already dawn. The birds already singing, the moon has already gone. So I really messed it up in English, but it sounds better in Spanish. And you can't take Spanish songs and poetry and translate it into English. It doesn't work. You can't take Russian poetry and translate it into English. It doesn't work. Like, translate this, like, 2000 let vajna, vajna bez osobých причин, vajna dela молодых, лекарство против морщин, красная кров, через час уже просто земля, через 2 на ней цветет трава, через 3 она снова жива. Do you hear the rhyme and the meter? You cannot translate that into English. And the meaning gets all messed up anyways. So it sounds better in Spanish. So, yeah, I admit. On the morning of her birthday, Esperanza heard the voices coming from outside her window. She could pick out Miguel's, Alfonso's, and Juan's. I don't want to skip a page. Yeah. Top of 252. She sat up in bed and listened and smiled, and Esperanza lifted the curtain. Isabel came over to her bed and looked out with her, clutching her doll. They both blew kisses to the men who sang the birthday song. Then Esperanza waved them inside, not to open gifts, but because she could already smell coffee coming from the kitchen. It's time for another cup. They gathered for breakfast, Mama and Abuelita Hortensia and Alfonso, Josefina and Juan, the babies and Isabel. Irene and Melina came too, with their family. And Miguel. It wasn't exactly like the birthdays of her past, but it would still be a celebration, under the mulberry and chinaberry trees, with newborn rosebuds from Papa's garden. Although there were no papayas, there was cantaloupe, lime, and coconut salad. And machaca burritos topped with lots of laughter and teasing. Mejor baleadas con todo. At the end of the meal, Josefina brought out a flan de almendras. Oh, rico. Esperanza's favorite, and they sang the birthday song to her again. Isabel sat next to Abuelita at the wooden table. They each held crochet hooks and a skein of yarn. Now watch, Isabel. 10 stitches to the top of the mountain. Abuelita demonstrated. Isabel carefully copied her movements. The needle rocked awkwardly, and at the end of her beginning rows, Isabel held up her work to show Esperanza. Mine is all crooked. Esperanza smiled and reached over and gently pulled the yarn, unraveling the uneven stitches. Then she looked into Isabel's trusting eyes and said, Do not ever be afraid to start over. Beautiful. Beautiful book. So that's the end of the book. What you can do next is you can read the author's note. And if you read the author's note, you'll find out what happened in real life, because this is actually based on quite a true story. And you'll find out who the characters represented, who got married to who, what kind of families they had, and so it's pretty interesting. I would read the author's note. So congratulations, guys. 2 books down, many more to go. Show yourself approved by reading good books.